Hey, get inspired, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Life Inspired, where we talk about people's ... and then God moments. So the show is all about God moving in people's lives and doing what he's doing. You know, your life was going along and then there was some kind of ... turning point, and then now he's got you walking in a new direction. Most people have numerous turning points in their lives. You can watch this show, share this show by following us on Facebook, liking us on Facebook, subscribing to us on YouTube, or sharing it that way. You can also get to it at inspiredhomes.com. So thanks to TJ21 Media Group and all that they do. So our guest today is Denise Amstutz from the Sufficient Grounds coffee shop right on the campus of Bethel University, formerly Bethel College, right here in Mishawaka. I guess is your address? Is a Mishawaka address? Yeah. So I can't wait to hear all about this. You're going to tell us a little bit about God telling you like what happened before you knew him, and then him stepping in, and now you are a Christ follower. So tell us, what was life like before that?
A lot of changes. Okay, well, grew up in an alcoholic, abusive home.
Wow.
Youngest of 5.
Wow.
Never met the oldest brother. He was killed when he was 12, hit by a train. That changed the course for my parents. And then, so I was a late baby. My parents were 35 and 44 when I was born. So pretty much always told I was a mistake and was not to be there. And
well, God thought otherwise.
Yes, he did. He sure did. Skip forward about 11 years. And I was on the bus, met 2 girls 4 years older than me, invited me to go to church with them. And I did.
And you were how old?
I was 11.
Okay.
And then they just kept befriending me, kept asking me to go to things. And that went on for the next 6-7 years.
Wow.
When I was 12, I was offered the opportunity to be adopted by their family, and I turned it down.
Okay.
I remember it vaguely because I think I was high. When I was 12, I started doing drugs.
Okay.
So I had 2 totally different lives. I'd go to church with them, go home, and and get high.
Right.
Parents, they never cared where I was. I was on my own, pretty much. Family, all my older siblings were married and gone.
Wow.
So I was pretty much on my own.
So how far apart were you from the third child?
Fourth child, actually.
child.
7 years.
7, okay.
Yeah, so when I was 13, she got married.
Yeah.
And she was gone.
Right.
So, it was tragic, having her gone, because that was my last buffer.
Right.
And my mom was very abusive.
Okay.
But I hung in there, well, not really too well, for the next 6 years. Got very involved in speed and marijuana.
Wow.
I was a straight A student. I destroyed that.
Wow.
And not because of my actions, but because the drugs literally fried my brain.
Wow.
There's parts of math that I was a straight A student and I could no longer do. So when I got to college, after I became a Christian, that was a real shock to me, because I didn't realize how bad that was.
And you just were like, you just thought you could do it, but now you can't do it.
I realized I couldn't.
It just
I
can't.
cannot. No matter what I try to do, I cannot do it. So that's a really neat story that I will continue in a minute.
Okay.
When I was 18, I had already graduated from high school. My dad died 15 days after I graduated from high school.
Wow. How did he die?
He died of pneumonia, but he was an alcoholic.
Right.
So that was, I'm going to jump back and forth a little bit because I'm forgetting things. But when I was a sophomore in high school, my mother tried to kill herself. I found her, and she was in the hospital for 3 months. She took a bunch of sleeping pills with a bunch of beer. And they were able to save her. I found her laying on the bathroom floor. And when she came home from the hospital, it was her, my dad, I, and her boyfriend that all lived in the same house. So that's how I finished up my high school years.
Wow.
And
did your dad know that
the
boyfriend was a boyfriend?
Oh, yeah. He had been married before. And he met my mom, and he swore he would never get a divorce again. And we used to beg him to get a divorce, because I guess a lot of people knew my dad as a wonderful businessman, a wonderful boss, and I never knew him that way. I knew him as this sad alcoholic man. So he died 15 days after I graduated from high school. Then I started into drugs big time.
Wow.
That's when I started acid and things like that. May of 1974, I decided I was going to either commit myself to a mental institution or kill myself. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was 90 pounds, soaking wet. Wish I was that now, but no, not in that state. I had been involved in Satanism in high school.
Wow.
So I was afraid all the time. I couldn't be in a room, bright daylight, by myself if no one else was in there with me. I was terrified. So I decided, again, like I already said, I was either going to kill myself or commit myself to a mental institution. Decided that was the road I had to go, and I was going to do it May 17th. May 16th, the family that wanted to adopt me, and I had stayed, in touch with them all those years, I went to their house one night to ask her about baking a cake for a friend of mine. And she got to talking to my friend about Jesus and about his return and that it is coming soon. And all of a sudden, about 11 o'clock that night, she turned around and looked at me, and she said, "Do you want to be saved?" And I was sitting there the whole time saying, "Get out of here, let's get out of here, let's get out of here." And out of my mouth came, "Yes."
But that's not what you wanted to say.
No, but that's what came out of my mouth, because that was what was so deep in my heart. And so it came out that, yes, I did want to be saved. And she said, "Okay, you can wait till your dad gets home," because I always called them mom and dad. They were always my mom and dad. So Dad got home about 1. He worked 2 jobs, 2 8-hour back-to-back jobs, so Mom could stay home and take care of all the teenagers that came through their house.
Wow.
And me being one of them. And he came home and led me to the Lord. Walked me through the scripture, and I accepted Christ, and I knew the next morning everything was different. It was all changed. So became a brand new believer.
So what does that mean to you that he led you to the Lord, walked you through the scriptures? Because we've got viewers that don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. He talked to me about, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, but at the same time that, Jesus came to save us all, and that he offered himself as our sacrifice for the sins that we tried so hard to destroy ourselves with. And he offered that as a free gift, but it was a gift I had to accept, not something that would just be plopped on my head because somebody said so.
Right.
But it had, it's free, but just like any birthday gift that you get, you have to open it. Yeah, you have to accept it and open it and keep it. And so that's what I did. I accepted Christ that night and gave my life to him, and that was in May 16th. I accepted Christ the day I was going to commit myself or kill myself. And when someone's...
And why had you picked May 17th?
That's don't know.
You're just like, yeah, that's the day I'm
But
gonna
see, God
do that.
knew.
Yeah.
He knew what was going to happen on May 16th.
Sure.
And the person I was going to come in contact with was the person I needed to be able to hear about Jesus.
Right.
And so I did. And
so you said that everything was changed. Why? How is everything different?
I slept alone in a bed for the first time in months.
Wow.
I woke up the next morning and my first thoughts were, it's all new. This was real. This was real. I knew immediately. I had previously to that quit feeling. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I wasn't mad. And one day, I remember very vividly, just months before this, I was walking across a parking lot somewhere, and I remember thinking, how long has it been since I laughed? And I couldn't remember.
Wow.
And it was just like I was dead, dead inside. And there was a fight going on in me. It was, I would literally, God allowed me to hear it. Mm-hmm. Satan would say, "You're mine," and God would say, "No, she's mine." And I would hear this argument all night long.
Wow.
And it was a fight that was going on for my soul.
Right.
And once I accepted Christ, it was all different.
Right.
It was things were brighter. Life was good. Yeah, I was still really sick. I went to the doctor the next week because I had made this doctor's appointment. Why, I don't know. But I went, and he said, well, your body's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. You are anorexic, and you are in deep depression. And I said, I don't feel that way. But that's what my body was saying. Right. And, it all changed. By August of 1974, I was at Bethel College, which was at that time, Bethel College, and what a culture shock.
Right.
To go from the drugged out hippie freak, because that's what I was in the 70s, to this.
Right.
So it was pretty cool.
Right.
It was just seeing
so
what God did in our lives.
So you said that you were in Satanism, and some of our viewers don't know what that means. What is Satanism?
I held seances in my house. I had a satanic Bible. Just really followed whatever, like I was looking into Jehovah's Witness. I was looking into, I was just looking for an answer. Uh-huh. And my mother is the one that kind of pushed all this with the Satanism. She was extremely, I forget what the word is right now, but I mean, couldn't have a black cat cross your path. Couldn't walk under a ladder. Couldn't have a salt pepper shaker.
Superstitious.
Oh, extreme. To the extreme. And that's how I was raised.
Right.
And come to find out later, the voices I heard in the house and the fear that I felt in the house was real. Mm-hmm. A couple of owners later actually performed an exorcism in our house.
Wow.
Because they were having the same problem.
Wow.
And so it was just amazing when pegs would fall into the round hole, and I would say, I wasn't crazy. Mm-hmm, it really did happen. Mm-hmm, and we're the ones that brought it in here. Mm. I did. Mm-hmm, so, but I used to have a lot of people come for those seances, and it was scary. It was stupid. Mm-hmm. And, you give Satan an inch, he'll take your whole life. Mm-hmm. Very, very willingly he will. Mm-hmm. And he will do no good. Mm-hmm. No, I don't care how much people say, oh, but look what he's done. No, that's all fake. Mm-hmm. Completely.
Yeah, he's a liar. He's going to tell you whatever good stuff he thinks you want to hear, because he...
Right, and he was slowly killing me.
Right.
And he came real close.
Right.
To having me for all of eternity. So I'm thankful.
Right. For sure. So can I ask, you said there's something else on the verge of being a new future story.
Oh, yeah.
Can you share just a teeny bit about that?
I became very involved in church, very involved in women's ministries. Had a family, got married from Bethel. Wonderful Christian man. I tease him and say he's born on the front pew of a church. He met me, started dating me, and found out everything I had done within 2 weeks after we started dating. And he said, I'm going to stick with you, you're worth it. And I knew we'd get married. We've been married 43 years.
Wow.
We had, all of our kids. We had 3, 6 exchange students and a foster daughter. So we always had a house full of kids. I got very involved in church, very involved in women's ministries, and I felt like that's what I should do. I'm not sure it was ever something I felt led by God to do, but yet he blessed it.
Okay.
And one day, and I've already told my story about my mother and how abusive she was, one day the woman who was heading up the Bible study group that I was a part of and a leader in, said, hey, if you guys have anything that you want to share today, it's a safe place. You can share whatever you need to share. So I did. And I shared for the first time that I had trouble with women's ministries because of my mother.
Okay.
And that it was a very difficult thing for me to do, but yet I knew God was using me. But that I asked everyone to pray for me, that would be lifted and that I would not feel so small. Okay. Every time I tried to do anything in women's ministries. She went home and told her husband this was supposed to be a safe place. Oh. And a couple days later, she called me, and we had decided on a book, prayed about it. Well, she called me. We all prayed about it as a group, decided that this one book would be what we would do for the next lesson. Well, she called with 2 reasons. She called me and said, well, we have decided not to do that book. My husband and I talked about it, and I said, wait a minute, this isn't what was decided. This isn't what we prayed about it. This isn't what the women chose. And so I kind of she didn't like that. She didn't like me saying, kind of confronting her. And then she said, and I talked to my husband about you. And we've decided that you need to take 3 months off and away from leading in women's ministries and get your life in order. And I felt like a steamroller went over me, because everything that I thought I was got stripped out from underneath of me.
Right.
And I said, you can't take 18 years of abuse and fix it in 3 months. I've been working on it my whole life. And God has done wonderful things now, in the years since. And he was doing wonderful things then, but she wanted to push it. And I said, that's not going to happen. And she said, oh, but we do want you to be in charge of refreshments at Bible study. And I said, I'm not coming back. And she said, well, you're being spiteful. And I said, no, I'm not. I said, you just crushed me. And I'm done. And I hung up. And I haven't been in women's ministry since then. So God has started just recently speaking to me about that on a regular basis.
Like he wants you involved again?
He wants me, I'm not sure if it's women's ministry so much as I should have said that what I loved to do was lead Bible studies. I had a real gift for interpreting the Word. And I loved it. It was always hard for me because of the women thing, but it was something I knew I needed to do. And when that door shut, I'm starting to be thankful that God didn't leave it shut. And so I'm waiting to see what he has in mind. Because he is bringing it to my mind over and over and over. And there's a reason. He even had me share it for the first time in years with one of my best friends.
Wow.
Just 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And it's like, where did this come from? Why is this coming back to me? But because God's not finished. And he's never finished with us.
No.
He doesn't want that to hurt.
No.
He wants it to be healed.
Yes.
And I'll take it.
Bring on the healing, Lord.
Yep, bring it on.
Yep,
I'll take
cool.
it. So that's an open book yet.
Very cool. Well, we look forward to hearing what he does.
Thanks.
You'll have to come back and share.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sure there'll
so
be an
one
answer.
final question. I like to try and remember to ask everybody, how do you stay inspired? What does staying inspired look like for you? Because just like your fingerprint's different than everybody else, your way of connecting is different, but might be a little bit like someone else's, and maybe a viewer would like to, I could try that. I might connect that way. So how do you hear from God? What do I
do? I love to worship.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do, is to really get involved in a song and just be able to worship.
That's awesome.
And forget that anybody else is around.
Yeah.
And that's where he really speaks to me.
Good.
Really, really speaks to me.
Great.
But I want to say one more thing that God is doing, and it has to do with Trina.
Okay.
It has to do with everybody at Sufficient Grounds. The Lord has just opened such a door there.
Okay.
For me to share my life with them.
Yeah.
And I'm mom to 32 employees.
That's cool.
And everybody that's been before. I've gone through 3 times that many, because they all graduate. They keep leaving me.
What is that about?
What is that about? But they're awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just such a neat ministry that the Lord has opened.
That's
he hasn't quit using me.
No, for
sure.
sure.
Even though I had to walk away from that other one for a long season, he's still using me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I
You guys,
it.
Thanks for watching Denise's story. If you know somebody that needs to hear, somebody that's involved in Satanism that needs to hear that you can get out of it, or, really, I guarantee you, the people that led you to the Lord were praying for you. You are here today because they were praying for you. So if you know someone that is involved in Satanism or something like that, and just pray for them. Just keep praying for them. God will give you opportunities. And and pray for Denise's ministry to those that serve at Sufficient Grounds on Bethel campus, or the customers that you're serving, the students and adults that come in for things at Sufficient Grounds. Those are people that you're ministering to too. So I know that they would love your prayers. Thanks for watching. You guys share the story, and have a great week. Bye-bye.